The reason you wake up between 3 and 5 a.m. has nothing to do with your bladder, your stress levels, or your room temperature. It's a spiritual awakening that modern society has trained you to ignore. While you're reaching for your phone to check the time, annoyed at being awake, you might be missing a divine appointment that was set specifically for you. The most successful people I've coached don't just tolerate these early awakenings. They've learned to treasure them as their secret weapon for clarity and purpose. Your ancestors understood the power of these hours, but we've lost this wisdom in our 24/7 always connected world. Every time you force yourself back to sleep during these hours, you're essentially hanging up on a call from the divine. What message might be waiting for you in that next 3 a.m. moment? When your eyes open at 3 a.m., there's something powerful happening. Your room is dark. The world is silent. And somehow, you're awake. You didn't set an alarm. Your phone didn't buzz. No noise disturbed you. Yet here you are, wide awake, while the rest of the world sleeps. This is not an accident. I want to talk to you about something that happens to millions of people around the world. That moment when you suddenly wake up between 3 and 5 in the morning, and you wonder why. Many dismiss it as insomnia or stress. Some blame it on what they ate. Others just try to go back to sleep, frustrated at the interruption of their rest. But what if I told you there's a deeper reason? What if this awakening is actually an invitation? The hours between 3 and 5 a.m. have been recognized across cultures and throughout history as a special time. A time when the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds grows thin. A time when you can hear more clearly, think more deeply, and connect more authentically with your purpose. I remember when this first started happening to me, I would wake up at exactly 3:27 a.m. night after night. At first, I was annoyed. I had a busy schedule the next day. I needed my rest. I tried everything to stay asleep, to changing my diet, avoiding screens, even medication. Nothing worked until I realized something profound. I wasn't supposed to stay asleep. I was being woken up on purpose. The first morning I decided to embrace this awakening instead of fighting it, changed everything for me. Instead of tossing and turning, trying desperately to fall back asleep, I sat up. I opened my heart. I listened. And in that quiet moment, clarity came. Solutions to problems that had been troubling me for months suddenly became obvious. Ideas flowed freely. I felt a peace and certainty I hadn't experienced before. That morning, I wrote down what came to me. The next day, those notes became the foundation of a project that would eventually touch thousands of lives. This wasn't coincidence. This was divine appointment. You see, in those early morning hours, something special happens. The world goes quiet. The constant noise of daily life, phones ringing, notifications buzzing, people talking, traffic rumbling, it all fades away. Even your own thoughts, usually racing from one concern to another, begin to settle. In this rare silence, you can finally hear the voice that's been trying to reach you all along. Think about it. During the day, we're bombarded with information. We're pulled in countless directions. We're reacting rather than creating. We're so busy responding to the urgency of the moment that we neglect the importance of our purpose. Between 3 and 5 a.m., all that changes. Your mind is most receptive after a few hours of sleep. Your defenses are down. Your analytical brain, which spends all day questioning and doubting, is at rest. This creates the perfect conditions for revelation, for insight, for divine guidance. There's a reason why monks across various traditions wake up before dawn to pray and meditate. There's a reason why so many spiritual practices encourage early morning rituals. This time has always been recognized as sacred. Let me tell you about my friend Sarah. She was a successful executive, but she felt empty inside. Something was missing, but she couldn't identify what. Then she started waking up at 4 a.m. several days in a row. At first, she was frustrated. She checked her phone, tried to distract herself, even took sleeping pills. Nothing worked. Finally, one morning, she decided to just sit with it. What if this is happening for a reason? She asked herself. That morning, she grabbed a journal and just started writing whatever came to mind. What poured out surprised her. She realized she had been pursuing success as defined by others, not her own heart. She had neglected her passion for teaching, for helping others grow. Within 6 months of that realization, Sarah had transitioned to a new career as a corporate trainer, where she could combine her business expertise with her love of teaching. She tells me she's never been happier or more fulfilled. All because she finally paid attention to that 4 a.m. wake-up call. I've seen this pattern repeated hundreds of times. People who listen when they're awakened in these early hours often find direction, purpose, and breakthrough. This is not about religion. This is about connection. This is about tapping into the wisdom that's available to you when you're finally quiet enough to hear it. Now, some of you might be thinking, but I never wake up during those hours. I would suggest to you that perhaps you have, but you quickly dismissed it and fell back asleep. Or perhaps your awakening is coming soon. And when it does, I want you to be ready to recognize it for what it is. Others might say, I wake up then, but it's just because of stress on my schedule. Perhaps. But I challenge you to test that assumption the next time it happens. Instead of immediately trying to go back to sleep, take a few minutes to be still, to listen, to open yourself to the possibility that there's a message waiting for you in that moment. The most powerful opportunities often come disguised as inconveniences. The most important messages often come when we least expect them. Your 3 a.m. awakening is not a sleep disorder. It's not your body malfunctioning. It's your spirit being called to attention. It's an invitation to step beyond the ordinary routines of life and into the extraordinary possibilities that await when you connect with your true purpose. The question is not why you're waking up at this hour. The real question is, what will you do with this sacred time when it's given to you? Have you ever wondered why so many spiritual traditions place special emphasis on the hours between 3 and 5 in the morning? This is not random. This is not coincidental. There is something truly unique about this time in ancient times. People understood what modern science is only beginning to rediscover during these early morning hours. Your body chemistry changes. Your brain waves shift. Even the air around you seems to hold a different quality. The ancient Chinese spoke of this time as the hour when the lung and large intestine meridians are most active. A time of cleansing, of releasing what no longer serves you. In many traditions, 3 to 5 a.m. is considered a spiritual sweet spot, a window when communication between the physical and spiritual realms flows more easily. They're powerful, but why? What makes these specific hours so powerful? First, there's the profound silence. Not just external silence, but internal quiet as well during the day. Your mind processes thousands of thoughts. You're constantly analyzing, judging, planning, worrying. This mental chatter creates a barrier like static on a radio that prevents you from hearing the broadcast clearly between 3 and 5 a.m. That static disappears. Your mind naturally becomes still. In this stillness, You can finally hear the whispers that are drowned out during waking hours. I once spoke with a woman who had been struggling with a crucial business decision for months. She had analyzed every angle, consulted experts, created spreadsheets, yet still felt uncertain. Then one morning, she woke up at 3:15 a.m. and with absolute clarity, the answer was there. Not as a voice or a vision, but as a knowing so certain she couldn't ignore it. It wasn't that I thought of something new, she told me. It was that I finally heard what had been trying to reach me all along. The second significant aspect of these hours is your heightened receptivity during normal waking hours. You're in output mode, talking, doing, creating, solving. But between 3 and 5 a.m., you naturally shift into input mode. Your defenses are down. Your mind is open. You're ready to receive. This receptivity is precious and rare in our output-dominated world. Most people spend their entire lives broadcasting their opinions, their knowledge, their desires. Few take time to truly listen. But wisdom comes in the listening, not the speaking. Third, there's the matter of brain chemistry. Modern research shows that during the early morning hours, your brain produces different neurotransmitters than during the day. Your pineal gland secretes high levels of melatonin and serotonin. Your brain waves slow down. This creates an altered state similar to deep meditation, a state where insights and intuition flourish. But there's something even more profound occurring. These hours represent a threshold, a borderland between night and day. Throughout human history, threshold spaces have been recognized as powerful. The shore where ocean meets land, the clearing where forest meets field, the doorway between rooms. These in-between spaces hold unique energy. They are places of transition, of possibility, of transformation. The hours between 3 and 5 a.m. are precisely such a threshold, not fully night anymore, not yet day. You stand at the edge of consciousness, where dreams and reality intermingle. I remember speaking with a musician who told me his best compositions came during these hours. It's like I can hear the music more clearly then, he said. During the day, I'm just transcribing what I heard at 4 a.m. Many artists, writers, and visionaries throughout history have recognized this pattern. They learn to honor these hours, to show up for them, to treat them as sacred appointments. But this time is not just for artists. It's for anyone seeking purpose, clarity, and connection. When you wake up during these hours, something much bigger than you is reaching out. The same power that spins the galaxies and orchestrates the seasons is inviting you into conversation. The same wisdom that designs flowers and choreographs bird migrations wants to direct your path. I once asked a group of successful people to share when they received their most significant insights. Over 70% mentioned the early morning hours. These weren't just spiritual insights. There were solutions to business problems, creative breakthroughs, relationship clarity. One CE told me he wakes up at 4 a.m. every day by choice. I don't make major decisions unless I first process them during this time, he said. My success rate went up dramatically when I started this practice. What happens when you ignore these awakenings? When you groggily check your phone, then roll over and force yourself back to sleep? You miss the appointment. You silence the call. You remain stuck in patterns that may not be serving your highest purpose. Think about it this way. If someone you deeply respected, a mentor, a leader you admire, was knocking at your door at 4 a.m., would you ignore them? Would you pull the covers over your head and pretend not to hear? Or would you recognize that if they're coming at such an unusual hour, they must have something important to share? The awakening between 3 and 5 a.m. is exactly such a knock. It deserves your attention. I'm not suggesting you need to be joyful about being awake at such an hour. I understand the human desire for sleep. But I am suggesting that when this happens repeatedly, you might be receiving an invitation that has the potential to transform your life. These sacred hours contain gifts that aren't available at any other time. They offer clarity that can't be found in the noise of day. They provide connection that's often blocked by the busyness of normal life. The question is not whether these hours are significant. History, tradition, and countless personal testimonies confirm they are. The real question is whether you recognize their significance in your own life. Will you answer when the knock comes at 3 a.m., when you continually wake up between 3 and 5 a.m.? It's always a reason, always a message, always a meaning behind it. But how do you know what it means for you specifically? Let me tell you something important. This awakening is as unique as your fingerprint. The message waiting for you at 3 a.m. is not the same as the message for your neighbor or your colleague or your friend. It's customized for your life, your purpose, your season. However, there are patterns I've observed over decades of studying this phenomenon and speaking with thousands of people who experience it. Often, these awakenings come when you're at a crossroads, when you need to make an important decision, when you're about to enter a new season of life, when you've been asking questions but not finding answers during your waking hours. The early morning call frequently comes when you've been too busy, too distracted, or too afraid to listen to the guidance that's been trying to reach you in other ways. It's like when a friend calls you repeatedly and you keep sending them to voicemail. Eventually, they might show up at your door because the message is that important. I remember a doctor who kept waking up at 3:30 AIUM for weeks. He was successful in his practice but felt increasingly empty during one of these awakenings. He finally stopped fighting and started listening. What came to him wasn't a voice but a feeling, a profound knowing that he needed to use his medical skills in underserved communities. This wasn't convenient. It didn't fit his career plan. It would mean less income, more challenge. But the certainty he felt in that moment was undeniable. Today, he splits his time between his practice and a clinic in a struggling neighborhood. I have found my purpose at 3:30 in the morning, he told me, and I've never felt more fulfilled. How do you distinguish between a spiritual awakening and just a physical issue? This is a valid question. Sometimes you wake up because you drank too much caffeine, or your room is too hot, or you have sleep apnea. The difference is in the pattern and the feeling. Physical disruptions feel random, annoying, clearly tied to external factors. Spiritual awakenings often come with a sense of alertness, clarity, and purpose, even if you don't yet understand what that purpose is. They frequently occur at the same time, repeatedly, and most tellingly, they persist even when you address all the possible physical causes. Let me share a story I've never told before. Years ago, I went through a period of waking up at exactly 4:15 AUMing every morning for nearly a month. I was frustrated at first. I had a packed schedule, speaking engagements almost every day. I needed my rest. But night after night, my eyes would open at precisely 4:15. Finally, I surrendered to it. I started using that time to sit quietly, to listen, to open my heart. One morning, a name came to mind, someone I hadn't thought about in years. An old friend who had moved away. I felt a strong urge to contact him, which made no logical sense. But the prompting was so clear that I finally reached out. It turned out he was going through the darkest period of his life, the very day I called. He had been contemplating ending his life. Our conversation changed his trajectory. Today, he's helping others navigate similar darkness. I never told him what prompted my call, but I knew that 4:15 awakening wasn't about me at all. It was about being available for someone else's moment of need. Sometimes the early morning message is about your path, your purpose, your decisions. But sometimes it's about your connection to others, your role in a bigger story. The key is learning to listen correctly during these hours. This isn't about analyzing or figuring things out with your logical mind. It's about opening yourself to a different kind of knowing when you wake up during these hours. Don't immediately reach for your phone. Don't turn on the television. Don't distract yourself with activity. Instead, become still. Listen with your entire being, not just your ears. The message might come as words in your mind. It might come as a feeling in your body. It might come as an image or a memory. It might even come as a seemingly random thought that only reveals its significance later. Whatever form it takes, receive it without judgment. Don't immediately dismiss what comes because it seems impractical or challenging or different from what you expected. Write it down, even if it doesn't make complete sense in the moment. Some messages only reveal their full meaning with time. Remember this: the 3 a.m. call is not a burden. It's not punishment. It's not your enemy. It's a gift, a direct line to wisdom that wants to guide you toward your highest purpose and most authentic life. Will you answer when it calls? So you've awakened at that mystical hour. Your eyes are open in the darkness. You recognize this moment as significant. Now what? How do you respond to this divine appointment? First, acknowledge it. Don't fight it. Don't resist it. Say to yourself, I accept this awakening. I'm ready to receive whatever message or guidance is here for me. This simple act of acknowledgement shifts your energy from frustration to receptivity. It opens a door that your annoyance would keep closed. Second, get up. Yes, physically rise from your bed. This is crucial. There's something powerful about physically responding to the spiritual call. When you remain in bed, your body signals to your mind that you're still in sleep mode. But when you rise, you demonstrate your willingness to meet the moment. You don't need to turn on bright lights. A small lamp is sufficient. Find a comfortable spot, a chair, a cushion on the floor, even sitting at the edge of your bed. Now, become still, truly still. No phone, no book, no distractions, just you, present and aware in the sacred darkness. Take 3 deep breaths, feeling the air fill your lungs completely before releasing it slowly. It is the process, it's a circle. And become still. Truly still 2 seconds. Oh, I'm truly still in the... Then listen. But understand that this listening isn't just with your ears. It's with your heart, your intuition, your spirit. It's a receptive state where you're open to guidance in whatever form it comes. You might want to ask a question. Why am I awake right now? What do I need to know? Then wait in expectant silence for the answer. I know a woman named Rachel who followed this practice during a time of great uncertainty in her career. She had 2 job offers, both good, but very different. During one early morning awakening, she asked which path to take. What came wasn't a direct answer, but a memory, a conversation she'd had years earlier about her deepest values and what kind of impact she wanted to have in the world. In that pre-dawn stillness, she realized one job aligned perfectly with those forgotten values, while the other would take her further from her true purpose. The answer had been within me all along, she told me, but I needed that quiet 4 a.m. moment to hear it clearly. Third, capture what comes. Keep a special journal near your bed specifically for these early awakenings. Write down any thoughts, feelings, images, or insights you receive. Don't edit or analyze, just record. Often the significance becomes clear later, sometimes in surprising ways. Fourth, if nothing specific comes, use this time for gratitude. Express thanks for specific blessings in your life. Gratitude tunes your spirit to a frequency where guidance can flow more easily. Finally, act on what you receive. This is perhaps the most important step. Guidance without action is like a seed that never gets planted. It has potential, but that potential remains unrealized. If you receive clarity about a decision, make that decision. If you feel prompted to reach out to someone, do it. If you gain insight about a change you need to make, begin making it that very day, if possible. A businessman I know woke repeatedly at 3:45 AIUM during a time his company was struggling. During one such awakening, he felt strongly that he needed to personally call 5 former customers who had gone to competitors. This seemed insignificant given the scale of his business problems. But he followed through. These conversations revealed a pattern of dissatisfaction his management team had missed. This led to crucial operational changes that not only brought back those customers, but improved retention across the board. His company turned around. All because he acted on that 3:45 AUMing prompting. Remember this, the early morning call is an invitation, not a command. You always have the choice to engage with it or ignore it. But those who choose to respond often find themselves walking into greater purpose, deeper fulfillment, and more meaningful impact than they ever imagined possible. These early morning moments aren't isolated events. They are connected to the larger story of your life and purpose. The clarity you receive between 3 and 5 a.m. isn't meant to stay confined to those hours. It's meant to transform how you live every hour of every day. Let me tell you about Thomas, a man whose life was completely transformed through these sacred appointments. Thomas was a mid-level manager at a large corporation. On paper, his life looked successful. Good salary, nice house, respectable position. But inside, he felt hollow. He went through his days mechanically, feeling disconnected from any real purpose. Then the awakenings began. For weeks, he found himself wide awake at 3:20 IUMI, almost precisely the same time each night initially. He was irritated. He tried everything to stay asleep. Sleeping pills, white noise machines, eliminating caffeine. Nothing worked. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, he surrendered. Fine, he said out loud one morning at 3:20. I'm listening. What am I supposed to hear? He sat in the darkness of his living room, eyes closed, breathing deeply. And for the first time, he asked himself questions he'd been avoiding for years. What do I really want? What would make my life meaningful? What am I afraid of? As the silence enveloped him, memories surfaced how, as a young man, he dreamed of teaching, how he'd wanted to write books that would inspire others, how somewhere along the way he traded his passion for security, his purpose for a paycheck. The realization wasn't dramatic, no lightning bolt or booming voice, just a quiet certainty settling into his chest. He needed to reclaim that abandoned dream. The next morning, Still tired, but somehow energized, Thomas took the first small step. He signed up for a weekend writing workshop. The following week, he inquired about teaching a night class at a local community college. Within 6 months, he had published his first article and was teaching one evening a week. Within a year, he had enough savings to reduce his corporate hours to part-time. Today, 3 years later, he's a full-time teacher and author, touching hundreds of lives directly and thousands through his writing. Those 320 awakenings saved my life, he told me recently. Not from physical death, but from a life of meaningless existence. I was sleepwalking through my days until those early morning hours woke me up to what truly mattered. Thomas's story isn't unique. I've witnessed this pattern countless times. The early awakening that leads to reflection, the reflection that leads to clarity, the clarity that leads to action, the action that leads to transformation. This is the real purpose of your 3 a.m. appointment. It's not just about that moment. It's about how that moment can redirect the river of your life toward its true course. When you consistently honor these early awakenings, something profound happens. The clarity you experience during those hours begins to extend into your daylight hours. The connection you feel in that darkness begins to illuminate your everyday interactions. The purpose you glimpse in that stillness begins to infuse your daily activities. You move from a person who occasionally has spiritual experiences to a spiritual person having a human experience. The gap between your awakened self and your everyday self gradually closes until they become one and the same. This is the ultimate gift of the early morning call. Not just moments of insight, but a transformed life. Not just clarity about what to do, but clarity about who you are and why you're here. So the next time your eyes open at 3 or 4 a.m., don't see it as an interruption. See it as an invitation to step more fully into your purpose, to align more completely with your authentic path, to become more intentionally the person you were created to be. Your divine appointment awaits. Will you show up for it?